Okay, take two. Let's try that again. It just like was like, no, we're not going to work anymore. So hopefully this one is going to stay working. I'll share this in my group after. Okay, I won't go over too much of what I just said. I'll just like dive right back in. When we're talking about inner evolution, when we're talking about like self-sovereignty, self-reclamation, it's the journey of returning back to the original, who you really truly are, more or less before the world got its hands on you, right? Because we come in and then there's this compartmentalizing of how we see the world and who we have to be, right? And so there's like a million different ways that I can take this conversation, which I say all the time. And also like, I really mean it. There's like a million different ways that we can interpret what does it mean to have your inner evolution and what does that have to do with self-mastery. So the goal in all of the work that I do, and I'm sure with the healing journey that you're on, is to have self-mastery so that we're not at the whim of our own triggers, right? We're not at the whim of, the voices in our head. Sorry. Again, I'm moving a lot of energy. I just facilitated like a really intense session with a client. So I may be burping. It's a great sign of moving energy. And isn't that your evolution, right? Is just like moving things through, moving ideas through, not mine, not mine, not mine, right? Your healing journey really is that process of removing everything that doesn't belong to you. And so many things don't belong to you. There's so many belief systems and ideas and paradigms and everything in between that isn't really truly serving you. Some of it is. So for example, like there is a part of fear that does serve you. It keeps you alive. It keeps you from like jumping off the edge of the cliff because like, oh, I shouldn't be afraid of heights. But like, actually, there is something good about being afraid of heights, right? So that you don't fall to your doom. But for the most part, most of the healing process is like moving energy through, and that energy is like all of those things that don't belong to you, all of those ideas that don't help you, all of those ideas that don't serve you, all of the things that, keep you playing small. And I do like little air quotes because I'm like, what does that mean playing small? Like sometimes it's okay to play small, right? If you are an online entrepreneur and your income goal is like, I want to like make 40K. Great. That doesn't mean you're playing small just because there's this idea that, your benchmark should be hitting 6 figures. No, it should be whatever you want, whatever feels good for you. Maybe hitting 40K is like, ooh, that feels like really spicy. And that's like definitely in relationship to like what my system wants to go for, right? So again, like that self-mastery is owning your own truth, owning what you want, owning your desires, independent of what you see online, what you think you're supposed to want, what you think you're supposed to believe in, because there's this idea that everybody else is doing it this way, so maybe this is the way, right? It's kind of like turning the volume dial down on like all those people in your mind or things in your mind or ideas in your mind. And self-mastery is being able to do that without emotionally collapsing into fear, into doubt, into some kind of stress response, like pleasing people or, trying to get people to like you along the way. Or, if you've grown up with social media, I'm aging myself, but I didn't, but still, we still want positive feedback. We want to belong. We want people to like us, right? And so there's a really big portion of our life. So from like age 8, roughly, our consciousness comes online. At around age 8, we start to come online in terms of like, oh, I'm a person in this world. And there's roles I have to play. There's things I have to do for people to respond to me or to like me. There's this like, at age 8, your consciousness wakes up and you see the world more or less for what it is. It's not perfect. It's dangerous at times. There are bad people in the world. The world is not like, what's that book? There's a book, I can't remember who it is, Richard Scarry books, like, oh, like a town doesn't look like this perfect, like the world isn't this imagined place that I've like grown up to think it is, right? So you come online at age 8, and then also you start to develop coping mechanisms. Hey, Kadola, you start to develop coping mechanisms even some of them that you gathered when you were like 3 or 4, or even some pre-verbal, right? So you come up with these like coping mechanisms and ways to kind of view the world where it doesn't feel so impending, right? So you have that. You start to kind of grow into that. You start to kind of manage it. You start to build these little, they're not idiosyncrasies, but they're little things. So like, for example, you may take on people pleasing, right? As a way of garnering love or garnering a response from people that feels pleasing, right? Because your safety is there if other people are happy with the choices that you make. So I'll tell you a quick little story. Yesterday, my kids were both home with me. They were kind of a little under the weather, and we were driving, and I was just like, oh my gosh, we have no time for dinner. We're going to stop at like this fast food place. But they also have kind of like healthier choices. So like they have like baked potatoes. And I said, what do you want, girls? And one of my daughters said, oh, I'll get a baked potato. And immediately I was like, So I just kind of let that go. And I was like, hey, daughter of mine, do you really want a baked potato? Or is that something that you say that you want because you think it's going to please me, that I'm going to be happy with you saying that? Or is it that this is actually what you want? And she just sort of sat there and she was like, well, I just think you might like it if I got that. So I was like, okay, so let's name that. So you're doing something called people pleasing, right? We can name it or not name it. Either way, I'm like, I want you to notice when you do that again, because I didn't say this, I don't want to shame her, but I'm like, this is not a great habit to be in. But it's something that we've learned. We've learned to kind of like, especially as children, we have less agency, we have less choice. We have less in decision-making processes around the adults. We are less in our body. We're not as like big and strong. We have less of a voice, if you will, right? Because we're just kind of coming online, figuring it all out. So we're going to try to kind of like manipulate or remove or move ourselves in relationship to what we think adults need us to be. Okay, so we do that. We do that. The problem is if we keep doing that when we're adults, in our adult body, in our adult life, in our adult mindset, in our adult spiritual journey, then that's when we're going to hit up with bumps and triggers and create more pain for ourselves, because we've now totally removed our own agency. We've totally removed our sovereignty. And then now there's a part of us that's aware we're at the whim of other people, and that doesn't feel safe. It doesn't feel secure. It certainly doesn't feel empowering, and it definitely doesn't feel inspiring, right? And so now if we're in that mode where we're going to kind of manipulate or try to kind of find a place to belong and response from people that makes us feel better, we have more opportunity to step out of our truth, more opportunity to follow rules because we think that's what we should want. And again, we see this in the online space all the time. Oh, I should aim for 6 figures because that's what, like, dude, is that what you want? Or would you just like maybe 40K, or maybe you just want to make like $50 a month? Like, what if you could want what you want because that's truly what you want, as opposed to what you think you should want or what you think a more evolved mind, body, and soul would want? So then we start judging the size of our desires. Ouch. Ouch. My husband and I have this thing where if one of us says something a bit spicy to the person, we're allowed to go, ouch, like that was a bit bitey. And so we ouch ourselves all the time, right? And so your inner evolution is the removal of that in your system. And when you remove those parts of you that are monitoring and you shift them back into the original wisdom place that you are and that they are, you have more agency, you have more space, you have more self-mastery of your own system. And I don't mean mastery in like this totalitarian, like top down, like I've got to master this. Like, no, I mean it very in a way where you're masterful at it, where you understand it, where you can work with it, right? Because that's like the ultimate goal is like, can I work with all the different aspects and personalities that I am without one coming on in an extreme way, right? So we have these parts that come on extreme ways, right? And they will stop us in our tracks. They will hold us back. They will monitor us, right? Unless we work with them, deal with them, know how to work with them. Um, I've had some really wild sessions with clients where we just make these like very renewed agreements or boundaries on what these different aspects of ourselves are allowed to actually tell us to do or not do, right? I also just want to kind of name this, and I just want to name this because I'm almost quite certain that everybody can relate to this. Okay, so there's this process that I have done and do with clients. Some of it very explicitly, very directly, and I'm quite certain you'll relate to it when I talk about it. I'll try not to use all the jargon and like the terms and like everything I've studied. I'll just want to keep it like, let's just talk, like we're just talking. So we have this like inner push and pull, and that's when shit's gonna feel like really funky. It's gonna feel heavy. It's gonna feel overwhelming. When you're feeling overwhelmed, there's too many cooks in the kitchen. In other words, there's like too many parts of you trying to take the wheel, trying to control you, trying to manage and puppeteer the whole thing. Okay. And so that's what overwhelm is. Overwhelm is like the perception of too many choices because you've got parts that are like, that's the best option and we should do it that way. You should do it that way. Right. And so self-mastery is being able to like, in a loving way, hold space and distance from that and move it away so that you can be like, what is it that I am doing? What do I want? So that I and the I am becomes very difficult to be self-led, to lead yourself without all the fucking noise of the world. If you have two particular parts that are vying for your attention and wanting to be right. Okay. A classic one that I see almost all the time. I'm just thinking of like, I'm just thinking of a process that I was witness to. So I'm not speaking about anybody I've worked with directly, and I'm just going to speak about it very like, generally speaking, anecdotally. I don't like to say personal things about clients. I just get an ick with that. So this particular person had, it was a male, and he was really wanting to, he had a young son, and he's really wanting to get his business going, right? Which if you've started a business or like anything in a vision or project, even if you're like remodeling your house, like it takes fucking time. It takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of patience. It takes a lot of letting the timeline go. It takes a lot of grit, determination, all the things, right? So this particular person, that's what they're doing. That's what they're about. And there's an inner struggle. So they have one part that's like, don't give up, which actually equates to like never stop working. So you have to always be online. You've got to always be working on it, always be thinking about it. Because if you don't, these parts have a fear something bad will happen. So for example, this particular person's like, if you don't, you're going to go back to that place where you were not living up to your potential. Okay. So that's a really big job. Like this part's got like, I got to do things to keep this like system alive. Cause if I don't, like, it's going to be really bad. Like maybe we're going to like go into depression or like not be able to get out of bed or like never get things done. So its job is to keep you going, but it comes on so intensely that it never lets you stop. So guess what's on the other side? I don't even think you have to guess. You're like, oh, I know what's on the other side of that. Oh, I know. The other side of that is don't do anything. Turn me off. Get me out of here. These particular parts are going to constantly feel like a push and pull, right? They also need boundaries. Like they need boundaries. You get to have like agreements between either these two parts coming together. Because here's the thing is they've actually both want the same thing. There's a process in NLP called parts integration. And essentially you kind of realize that both of these parts of you that you think are so opposing and so different, like, let's go do it. Let's go do the thing. Like, hype me up. Like, get me into the state of like doing it. I want to meet my goals and like build my dream and like do the thing. Oh my God, I just want to do nothing, like Netflix and chill. So like, I'm sure everybody can relate to this, right? So there's a place and parts integration. It's a process I've done with clients in the past. I do it now, but I do it a little bit differently. And it has way more sticking power. But you come to recognize that actually both of these parts that seem so different and so polarized actually both want the same thing. They want what's best for you, and they want balance. They want balance. So the only reason that this part's like, go, 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 is it because it thinks that this part is just going to like suck you down into the hole and pit of like Netflix and chill, and you're never going to get it done. There's so much pressure to be something in this world. There's so much pressure to be special. There's so much pressure to stand out. There's so much pressure to like have big dreams and live big and do big dreams. So if that's not feeling like it's quite the role you want to play or the outfit you want to put on for the day, then don't. Then don't. This idea of being special, I just saw this Sadhguru did a little blip, and it's been a while since I've listened to him, and he was just talking about like this, such a Western idea that you're special. Like, just, it's not that you're not unique, and it's not that you don't matter, because those things are very different than this like idea of what being special means, right? There's a lot of pressure to be something and to do something in this world. And that is only contributing to this like back and forth of like, we got to do, we got to be, we got to like live our best life. Like, just live life. It's going to be the best if you like release the pressure point here, right? It's like, go, go, go. And then of course, it only makes sense that you're going to have something that's going to try to balance you out. So if you can recognize that they both want the same outcome, they both do seek balance, you can make agreements, you can make boundaries between them. And with this self-mastery piece is like really establishing that these are learned parts or like learned behaviors or learned roles or like a learned belief system that you have to follow. Just keep that in mind too, as like a zoom way out here, is that both of these like push and pull aspects and parts of you, or like voices in your head, however you want to like call them, these are not even based on reality. They're based on like social stories and the fabric of the social story that gets passed on, right? We have to be contributing members of society, which has a very like toxic quality to it. Of course we want to be contributive. Of course we want to matter. Of course we want to like be part of community, right? But the story has become such a like pressurized thing that we develop these aspects that are like, you got to go for it. No, you've got to just chill. No, you got to go for it. No, you can just chill. So you can do both, but just know that these are part of these ideas that have been passed on. They're not based on any reality, which is like, I totally get it if that doesn't even like resonate or make sense. It's okay. I just think that whole part of self-mastery is like seeing things in a different way. Is like, is this really real? Is this true? Is this mine? Is this real? How do I know? Is it true? Who told me? And is this mine? Did I agree? So, is this real? Like, how do I know? Is it true? Who told me? And is this mine? Did I agree to that? Okay. I'm going to leave it at that. I didn't even look at my notes. Let me just blah, 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 make sure. Oh, the last thing, which I didn't really dive into, so maybe I'll dive into this more next week. If there's one like little seed that I could plant that I could just really like, take it, embody it, is that it's trust. And I mean, that's like a big like, oh, what do you mean by that? Like, so here, I'll give you specifics. Trust for whatever desire you are working toward, whatever outcome you're wanting, whatever thing you're going for. First of all, is it yours? Is it based on your truth? So those ones. But then also like trust that it's not only is it working now, It has been in the past and it will continue to work in the future. So this idea that it's like everything is okay. I'm not even just talking about this idea that like universe has its back and it's all working out for you like that too. I'm just saying everything's okay. I recognize that everything in the world isn't okay. So there's multiple truths, right? Everything is definitely not okay. I don't know about the future of it being okay. It's definitely not all okay. So when I'm talking about this, it's not like a global universal peace. But for us to make it okay, there has to be, and make our world okay in our life as an individual, so it's individual, having that baseline of trust on whatever you're working toward, whatever desired outcome you're looking for, is that if we can just really soak in and sink into, yeah, it's working right now. There's no fires to put out. There's no rush, right? Everything's okay. It has been like that in the past. Even if there's a part that's like, are you kidding me? It definitely was not. We just went through the dark night of the soul. But it's like, but that's how that worked. And that was okay too. All right. And that in the future, it will continue to be like that. Okay. I'm going to leave it at that. Big love. And I will see you next week. I will also be dropping probably my stories or like somewhere along here. There's a few different, calls that I'm going to be coming up with. I'm working with my mentor coach right now. In the past, if we wanted to do one-on-one work with me, we would have like a discovery call. I call it like breakthrough and align and breakthrough. And that was specifically to like talk about working together. And it's not that I'm not going to do that, but I really want to find something. So I'm just coming up with something where we can get on the call. You can see what a little bit of the coaching is like. We can dip our toes in. We can explore together on like what you're working with. I can give you some feedback on what I call the constellation. So the constellation is like, we often think we've got a lot of stuff to heal or like whatever it is, but really it's usually like 2 to 3 major player parts within us that need attention and need healing. And so part of that call, I think, we'll be able to kind of like ascertain like, here's specifically what you need to work on. Here's specifically how you can work on it. And here's specifically what you can expect will happen when you do, right? And just to kind of like lay it all out, there's a part of me that's very open-ended, but I also really love structure. So yeah, just kind of like, I'm fleshing that out a little bit. So if you want to chat about that, hop in my DMs, and we can just talk. Okay. Big love. Have a fabulous day.